Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Conversations. My name is Ashiana, and I am your host. With us today, we have Angie Antonio. She is the outgoing president for the Black Students Association at Western University. We sit down and we talk about what community means to her, the role Black excellence plays in her life, and what it means to be a student leader, also navigating spaces to push for change. We are so excited to have Angie with us here today and hear everything she has to say.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angie Antonio. I'm a fourth-year neuroscience student at Western University, and I just finished my term as BSA president at Western. And I'm so excited to speak to Ashiana today.
Thank you. We are so excited to have you on our podcast. For those of you that don't know, I was able to speak to Angie a couple months ago for one of USA's blogs, which I've linked in the caption. So just to start off with, how do you define Black excellence and what does this look like in your everyday life?
Black excellence to me is celebrating and recognizing the achievements of Black individuals. And it doesn't just go with things like major achievements. It's things like minor achievements, just little things like that Black students or Black people, Black individuals have been overlooked in the past for. And in my life, how I celebrate Black excellence or how I practice it is just by making sure everything I'm doing for myself is for myself and to better myself and also the community as well. I think it's really important that in recognizing Black excellence in your individuality, it's also important to, uplift other people as well so that they can also reach a level where we can celebrate their achievements as well.
Awesome. And when you were answering that, you mentioned not only for yourself, but like uplifting your community. So that brings us to our next question. What does community mean to you?
So to me, community means a lot. And I think that just kind of comes from the fact that I grew up in a predominantly white area and I didn't have a lot of Black friends. There wasn't a lot of diversity. I just always felt like I had to be a representative for my race. And so like if I did something wrong, if I did badly on a test, I was so scared people would start saying, oh my gosh, Black people do things wrong or Black people aren't smart. Like I was scared of those stereotypes that are attached. So I did my best to try and, have my utmost behavior. But I think that would have been really lessened had I had other Black individuals I could relate to on this. And even just having like different friends in different cities, like we could talk about these things, our common experiences and be like, wow, I go through that as well. So coming to Western and joining BSA, I will never let this down and like put this down, but BSA was one of the best experiences of my undergrad. And I'm just so blessed that I was able to just be a part of that because once I was immersed in the community and like a community of Black students who have similar goals, we're all like, it was just so nice to be around people in which like, I didn't feel like I had to like be anyone else. Like I could just be myself and like really just be unapologetically Black. And that's something I really love about like the community of friends that I built at Western, community of Black individuals that I know. It's like I've learned how to be myself. And I don't think I really took the time to understand that in high school. And yeah, university, you're going to learn a lot of things. You're going to go through a lot of experiences, but in which what the community of Black students taught me at Western was just like how to be comfortable in myself. Like I don't even know how to describe it. It was just kind of like this weight lifted off my shoulder. And I could talk about BSA and the effects of it every day, but I'm telling you, one of the best thing is just the group of friends that I made.
And so you mentioned earlier that you were BSA president this past year. So what made you decide to run for president and why did you want to take on that role?
Yeah. So honestly, when I first found out about Western, when I was looking at universities, I specifically made sure there was a BSA at every school that I was interested in going to. So I found Western's BSA, and that was one of the deciding factors in coming to Western. And I told myself that I'm going to get a part of this. I'm going to be a part of this club. In my mind, I think I always knew I was going to be president, but at the same time, I'm not sure if I was super confident at the time, but it was always a desire of mine from a young age from a younger age. So when I got into Western and then thankfully I got the first year rep, I was like, okay, I'm on my way. Like I can actually start to think that this is what I want to do. And my first year experience with BSA was just so amazing. Like seeing how the president handled everything, seeing how the team was able to brought together, it just inspired me so much. And definitely, like when I talk about leadership skills and things that I was able to cultivate, it was that experience and watching the leaders who are above me that really made me be like, okay, this is something I can definitely do. Then in second year, I took on the role of event coordinator, and that was a lot more responsibility. And like, in terms of the events that I planned all the socials that we had. So all of those more frequent events that we would hold. And, you know, like it just made me feel like, wow, I'm an organized girl. You know, like these events are so good. Like I'm so organized. Like I can really, really do this presidency. And then when the time came to be the president, I was like, you know, it makes so much sense for me to go for this role. Like this is a club. I love this club so much. Literally everyone in first year who knew me, all the Black kids who knew me, they just knew me as the BSA girl because I would just be running up to people and telling them to come to BSA events. So I was just like known for what I've done in BSA, and everyone kind of just expected for it to be me to be president. So I just stepped into the role. And again, the entire experience, best experience of my undergrad, hands down.
Yeah, like I was also a part of like a cultural club when I was at Western, and I was the president this past year as well. And one of the best experiences of my life, even though it was COVID, like you said, the leadership skills you cultivate and being able to be around people who are like you, who've experienced things that you've experienced, you feel so much less alone. So for our listeners who did not go to Western, the BSA puts on an incredible fashion show every year. I've been to it several times. I mean, there was not in person this year because of COVID, but absolutely incredible show. So Angie, can you tell us more about what the BSA fashion show is, what it means to you, and why it's important?
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys go to Western and you don't know what the BSA fashion show is, I don't even know where you've been going, where you've been living, because like honestly, it's I think one of the best events that BSA puts on. It's if not the best. And it just garners so much support. So many people come to the event, and essentially what it is just celebrating again with Black excellence. It's celebrating the fashion throughout the ages of Black individuals, and we have a lot of different themes. Like, I'm trying to have them come to mind, but we have different themes every year. The last one we had was through the decades. The year before that we had through the decades. This year, we had our lookbook. And so yeah, this is a really cool idea. And shout out to our former VP events, Sydney, who thought about doing a lookbook for our fashion show instead of doing a fashion show. And of course, like COVID was so disappointing. And like I said, like the fashion show is that event that everyone wants to go to. Everyone's looking forward to, you know, everyone buys new outfits just to go watch the show. Like it's that deep. So with the lookbook, what we ended up doing was we had so many people who wanted to help us out. Our photographers were all volunteers. Our videographer was a volunteer. Like so many people, so many of the models actually use their own clothes, were able to just like make their own outfits. But what was decided was that we were going to showcase like our students, like again with the community aspect of things, it's showcasing who we are and what it means like to be what it means like right now during COVID time, like how we're expressing ourselves during this time. And there was different sections, I don't know the word to use, but there was like different like theme sections within the lookbook that Sydney was able to really direct our models under. And it's just an amazing production. Like if you haven't seen it, definitely check out the BSA Instagram at BSA Western, because it's going to be in our link. And it's just one of those things that's like, this is something I'm going to be talking about, because despite the fashion show not happening, the lookbook, I honestly think that with what we were able to put together, it honestly surpassed the fashion show. And not in a way that obviously like we can't be there, we can't be in person and see people come together, but it was still the fact that we were able to put something so amazing together. Like it didn't take away from what we used to have before. But I'm excited because this year, hopefully everything will just go smoothly and we'll be in person. But the fashion show every single year just gets bigger and better. Oh my gosh. Like when I was in first year, Oh my God. I was like, wait, this is the fashion show they're talking about? I thought it was so walking down the no, it's deep. So if you haven't been, yeah, it's definitely something that you should see.
Yeah, I went for the first time in my second year, so your first year, and it was one of the best events, hands down, that I went to at Western that I like still remember vividly to this
Yeah.
day. So good.
Yeah.
And so what are some of the challenges of being a student leader? You became president in a very tumultuous time. And we talked about this a bit in the blog. And, you had a lot of responsibility placed on you that you might not have been anticipating when you became president of BSA. So what were some of the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, it was really hard because in as much as I'm a student leader, I think a lot of people kind of forget that I'm still like a person and I'm still like, a 20-year-old just like trying to find her own as well. And I found that these sentiments existed across my entire team. It wasn't just me who kind of felt that pressure. And the pressure of essentially like with obviously like the horrific events that we saw in 2020 and we've been seeing, but like just like how high profile these cases were. Um, all eyes returned to Black students. All eyes returned to BSA to be the individuals who would solve racism on campus. And obviously, like that's the goal of any. I feel like that's the goal of any advocacy group. But the reality is that like people look to the student leaders, so people look to me to be like that sole individual who would kind of, you know, I guess represent the Black students again, and which is what I kind of do, but it was just kind of like people were asking me like, what can I do to help the Black community? And those are great questions. Like I appreciate people wanting to do something and be advocates in their own way. But I think like people fail to understand that I'm also like living through this. Like this is like affecting people who look like me. And while I'm trying to do things to dismantle these structures, I have to deal with my own mental health as well and make sure that I'm not, doing anything that's gonna like hinder my health as well. And a lot of my exec team felt that way. Like what we would have to do, we did so much consulting. It's like so many like clubs, even Western administration would talk to us about what they could do to help us. And those are great questions. But one thing like I found with a lot of people who we spoke to was like, it was kind of just like speaking to me to speak to me. It wasn't like they were going to do anything, right? It was just for show, like, oh yeah, I spoke to the Black girl. I spoke to the Black student group so that we're good. Like we show that we care, right? It was a lot of performatism, and it just wasn't. It wasn't. We got played. I have to say, I got played because I was like, there's just so many things that came to light that I was shocked by because these people would like display like they really cared. They said they were going to do things, and then when it came to actually doing the thing, it was like, oh, like they pushed it back, or it never happened, right? A lot of empty promises. And what often happens when speaking to university administration and I guess like university student council and things like that, they do things to satisfy the current executive team so that when and they just say that they are going to do it, they keep promising they're going to do it. They do little things, they might put an event on here or there, but at the end of the day, like the intrinsic structure that's actually causing everything to happen as it's happening is not being solved. So they wait for the exec team to graduate, and then it's the same problem, but because we're gone, we can no longer kind of speak on it. But obviously, like everyone can see that. So that's kind of why but there was an establishment of a Black alumni group called, its short form is BAWA, and that's the Black alumni chapter of Western Alumni. And like it's recognized, these are graduates from almost 30 years ago who are coming back to Western to make sure that these changes that they were fighting for and they were asking for administration are actually being put in place. And it's very important that we have that, but also just kind of we have allies within the administration too, allies and also Black individuals, because it's one thing to have an ally, right? But at the end of the day, nothing like you really need your own to be in there as well. And just a big, big shout out to all the Black and BIPOC individuals who are in Western administration who really pushed forward to have like Black student voices heard. Because I don't think it should have taken, the horrific events that we saw last year for people to listen to us. It shouldn't have taken that. I've been hearing people complain about people driving on the road and just shouting the N-word at them. Like, it's just so, like, it's weird. And it's like, I don't even understand. But, you know, students have been complaining about this stuff for so long and nothing has happened. And yes, it all seems just so convenient that when this happened, that's when they're starting to do things. And yeah, like, I think obviously the change is good, but at the same time, like, it's that feeling that it's like, but if this didn't happen, would anything ever go down too? And another thing I would say is that when it comes to just policy change, now I'm not poli-sci or anything like that, but I just don't understand why it's taking years. I don't get it. Like, we big shout out to ESS, which is the Ethno Student Support Services, I think, Ethnocultural Student Support Services, and they were able to develop the anti-racism reporting tool, or the racism reporting tool, and you know, it's amazing. It's way more accessible to students, but I'm just confused why it took a year. You know, like, students have been crying for a racism reporting tool. Like, there was a working group that was done to talk to students about the problems and the issues. So many things were brought up by different groups of students, not just Black students, but there was still nothing done until everyone was kind of looking at Western. Everyone, and it's not just students now. It's outsiders trying to see what's happening. But yeah, for the most part, it was really hard. It was hard being president, especially during this time. Like, there's a lot of things I have to educate myself on too, because at the end of the day, like, I don't know everything. Like, I'm still learning as well. Even though I have lived experience, I'm not experiencing every single thing that every Black person experiences. So I have to learn along the way as well, and ensure that in using what sense of privilege I may have in term to help anyone else in my community and uplifting them as well. Again, kind of going back to that Black excellence thing, it's helping those in the community to have their and celebrate their achievements too. And I just want to ensure that as president, I wanted to ensure that I was making sure I could do whatever I could for the community. But yeah, you kind of talked about how as president, it was so hard for me. But again, I just want to shout out my exec team, especially my VPs, because really and truly, like, this was a really hard year for me. And just the support of my wonderful team, like, I just couldn't have done it without them. Like, everyone looks to the president to be the one, like, the face, but, you know, and people kind of forget about the execs, but like, I wish I could just bring them so that you could see the hard work, the sweat, you know, but they are really, like, they were the rocks that really, like, were able to kind of push forward all of the positive change we saw at Western.
The first thing you said is, like, why is it taking so long? And I think that's such a great point, because oftentimes it's like these things happen, and you know, racism has been an issue at Western for so long, right? Especially anti-Black racism. And it's always like, we need to do more research. We need to have the data. It's like, the research is there. The data is there. I understand there's processes and bureaucracies that, like, from an outside, maybe I don't understand. Like, I'm not going to say I know everything about every process, because I don't. And I haven't been involved on that side. But I think this is like a recurring thing, not even in schools, at all levels in the government. Like, you don't need, the research is there. The research's been done. The data is there. And even the changes that communities want, they've done the work and they've said, this is what we want. It's all there.
I've told you what we want.
Yeah.
Just do it. Girl, like, I don't understand why we have to go through all these mazes, all these loops, all these, oh, we'll talk about it. Oh, let's have a meeting in 2 months. Get it done. Like, I just don't, I can't understand. But it has been made a little bit more clear to me. Like, yeah, the bureaucracies that exist are actually, it's deep. Like, there are a lot of groups of people you have to go through. But the way it takes so long is really shocking to me. And one thing that we wanted to do, that we did actually this year at Western, was the BSA, in conjunction with the alumni group, was create a scholarship. Now, we had the idea of a scholarship, like, when I was in second year. Me and the future VPs thought about this idea. Like, we were thinking about doing it, and we would introduce it in my term. And then we've been talking to administration about it for some time. Tell me why everything kind of was established in we started really, really like going deep into this in the middle of summer. And even now, it's still kind of in the works, you know? And thank God we have the alumni team to help us, because, you know, they're actually professionals who are in the industry of knowing how to do these things. So now they've kind of taken over, and they're making sure that they've kind of looked through any of the cracks that may be existing in the policies that we have. Because again, we're students, we want to do things for other students, but when you don't have those people in power behind you, like nothing ever gets done. And I think that's another thing too, like with the way it takes so long. The people who are supposed to be helping us are the ones who are like saying no, you know, are saying no to it. And oh, I don't want to get into the tea that I know, but like there's so much that it's just so shocking. Like all we want is like, we've asked you, and it's not even hard. It's not hard to be anti-racist. It's not hard, you know, like yeah. It's not hard to listen to Black students. It's not hard to give more funding to Black students after years of not even looking at them. It's not hard to do all these things. I don't know why it's taking you centuries for a change to happen. I don't know why it's taking you a group of alumni from almost 30 years ago having to knock on your door for you change to happen. You know, I don't know why it has to take the passing of George Floyd. I don't know why it has to take the passing of Ahmaud Arbery. Like it shouldn't be taking those horrific events before something happens. And that's the thing. Like I hope that with what we've seen and how things have progressed, that we're gonna move. Like when students need something, it's gonna be done. And this is for the good of the students. It's not for just one person. It's for a group of students who are valuable members of your community. Like I talked about the Black community, but there's a wider Western community that we belong to as well. You know, like, again, all lives matter, Black lives matter. It's just, you can't say all lives matter if Black lives don't matter. Like, it's, yeah. You know, like, it's not hard. It's not. Yeah, I don't understand. I really don't get it.
I definitely have to say I feel the same way. Like I'm in poli-sci. I'm interested in pursuing a career in policy, and which is interesting because I hate bureaucracy. Like it drives me nuts because everything that you said I really relate to. Like the research is there, and there are so many hoops to jump through, and these institutions have been around for so long, and it's hard to think like, are they ever going to change? You know, like they're seemingly changing on the outside, but it's not just about putting anti-racist policies in. It's also about changing the way you make decisions so we can make things happen faster for students so the entire community benefits.
Exactly. Yes. And it's like, yeah, I talked about kind of like, we have to look at the intrinsic things so the policy changes. But yeah, the path of getting there is just, you know, make it straight. Why are we going through all these loops and turns? There's no need for all of that. So I really get that. Yeah.
And you mentioned one other thing about how like you're a student leader, but you're also a human being, and you have your own mental health to take care of, and that's the same with your exec as well, who are working tirelessly. So, what have you learned anything, or if you have, about like self-care and like how to take that time for yourself, or like draw that boundary? Like I am a student leader, but I'm also a human being.
Yeah. You know, it was really hard for me, and I don't think I've really perfected the balance that you need to have with being like having multiple roles. But what I have been doing for myself, you know, just taking time to really just be by myself and reflect a lot. And, you know, some might say I'm a bit emotional, but, you know, I love to just like appreciate the people who have gotten me where I am. And I think that's like a form of self-care for me, because it's remembering who has helped you. Like it's remembering that you were at a spot way worse than you're at now, but you were able to get out of that. And I think, you know, one thing, it's kind of weird to say this is self-care and self-love, but I think showing love to others, especially those who have helped you, appreciating them is just something I do a lot that really helps me. It helps me feel better. I don't know. Also just, again, with like typical things like exercise, eating healthy, you know, watching The Office, you know, just like things like that, like making sure that you take the time for yourself to do things that you like. And yeah, doing it for yourself, that alone time is so key. But I'm still learning. Like even though I'm saying all this stuff, like I'm still learning how to balance. And what it's taught me because I'm in university. Like I haven't really been to the quote unquote real world yet. Like this is not my adult life. So when I get into the real world and I become a leader in my workplace, it's like, Angie, so now that you've experienced something with BSA, how are you going to apply that to your real life? So I think it's a constant, you're constantly renewing yourself, you're constantly learning. And that's a thing with life. You're just always learning new things. So I'm sure that if you ask me this question in like 10 years, I'll probably have a different answer for you. But I'm still just trying to do things that make me happy. But I think, like, again, back to community, like, I just love my people. And I just want to make sure that they know that they know they're appreciated and, things go good.
I think that just being on the path of like, and just on that like note too, is I've been asking everyone I've been talking to, the year we're going into, knock on wood, hopefully looks a little bit different or a lot different than the past year. So what are you looking forward to in the future, whether that be next week or a year from now or in September when school starts up again?
I am looking forward to so much. Right now, I am studying for the MCAT. Oh my God. If anyone knows about this exam, this evil exam, you just know that it's taking my time. It's taking all my energy. So I'm currently studying for that. Hopefully I'll be ready by August. I'm applying to med school. Hopefully I get in. That's what I'm looking forward to the most. Honestly, just seeing my acceptance. But in the more so like school year future, I'm really excited to see everyone in person. I'm really excited to see people's real faces. Meeting new people as well. I love to meet new people. So excited for that too. It's my final year. So I'm just really trying to finish off strong. I really want to make sure this year is memorable for me. So taking every opportunity that's available to me, going out, if people ask me to go out, I'm going to go out. Like, I'm just going to live my best life. So I'm just excited for fourth year. I'm excited to graduate. It's going to be good.
Our last question is, what does advocacy mean to you?
Advocacy to me is about giving a voice to the voiceless. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it's seriously just in individuals who, require help, who need voices, but they're not able to speak for themselves. Like, I think that's when advocates come in. And it's not just advocacy within the political sense. It's also within your home, your friendship, different avenues of life. Like, advocacy exists every day, and we should all be advocates for something. Like, we should all be trying to ensure that what's not good now will be good later, It's just taking action too. I spoke a lot about false promises. We talked a bit about how the path isn't really made easy for us to even have these policies put into action, but it's all about action at the end of the day. Like, I'm kind of tired of hearing, like, we're going to change policies. I'm tired of that. I want to see action. If you're going to say you're going to do something, just do it. Like, and that's the thing with advocacy. Like, it's all about that intended action towards elevating or alleviating suffering in a particular group, community, whatever. Like, just ensuring that it's better for someone later. That's what it is to me.
So thank you so much for that incredible answer, for all your time today, especially amid studying for the MCAT. Really appreciate it. I hope all our listeners are sending good vibes so you get that med school acceptance.
Oh my gosh, please send me vibes, prayers, whatever. Please keep sending them. I'm so, so happy that we had this conversation. I love to speak about these things. So yeah, thank you.
No, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. To learn more about USA, check us out at www.ousa.ca. And for all of you also writing your MCATs or any other exams this summer, all the best. Get ready for another episode next week.